government, of any government, is the security and safety of the British people, to defend the national interest, particularly in these volatile times. That's why last week I announced the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the Cold War. That's also why I met President Trump last week, to strengthen our relationship with America, an indispensable partners in defence and security. And it's why this weekend I've been hosting European leaders here in London to work together for the security of the United Kingdom, Ukraine, and Europe as a whole. Through my discussions over recent days, we've agreed that the UK, France, and others will work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting. Then we'll discuss that plan with the United States and take it forward together. The purpose of today's meeting was to unite our partners around this effort, to strengthen Ukraine and to support a just and enduring peace for the good of all of us. Our starting point must be to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position now, so that they can negotiate from a position of strength, and we are doubling down in our support. Yesterday evening, the UK signed a £2.2 billion loan to provide more military aid to Ukraine, backed not by the British taxpayer, but by the profits from frozen Russian assets. And today I'm announcing a new deal, which allows Ukraine to use £1.6 billion of UK export finance to buy more than 5,000 air defence missiles, which will be made in Belfast, creating jobs in our brilliant defence sector. This will be vital for protecting critical infrastructure now and strengthening Ukraine in securing the peace when it comes. Because we have to learn from the mistakes of the past. We cannot accept a weak deal like Minsk, which Russia can breach with ease. Instead, any deal must be backed by strength. Every nation must contribute to that in the best way that it can, bringing different capabilities and support to the table, but all taking responsibility to act, all stepping up their own share of the burden. So we agreed some important steps today. First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities to deter any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air, together with others. Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US backing. We're working with the US on this point after my meeting with President Trump last week. And let me be clear, we agree with the President on the urgent need for a durable peace. Now we need to deliver together. Finally, we agreed that leaders will meet again very soon to keep the pace behind these actions and to keep working towards this shared plan. We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead, and to unite around a new plan for a just and enduring peace. Thank you. I will now take a number of questions, starting, I think, with you, Beth, at Sky.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Watching President Trump berate a wartime president and defender of European freedom in the Oval Office said to many people what you've already said in a way, that everything has changed. Given that the US has become an unreliable ally, did you as European leaders discuss the prospect of actually going it alone, and actually what the reality of a US pulling out of this, all of this would mean? Do you think you really do need the US? And if you do you think the coalition of the willing will be enough to bring President Trump back around? Thank you.
Well, first, in relation to last Friday, nobody wanted to see what happened last Friday, but I do not accept that the US is an unreliable ally. The US has been a reliable ally to the UK for many, many decades and continues to be. There are no two countries as closely aligned as our two countries, and our defence, our security and intelligence is intertwined in a way no two other countries are. So it's an important and reliable ally for us. The discussions we've had today, particularly the coalition of the willing, is on the basis that this is a plan that we will work with the US, and that it will have US backing. So that is the purpose of the plan, and that is why I spoke to President Trump last night before we developed the work on this plan. Thank you. I've got Robert from ITV.
Hello, Robert Pearson, ITV. I want to sort of put to you what will be on the minds of millions of British people. With your commitment in the event of a peace deal to deploy British soldiers to Ukraine, is there now a more real prospect of Britain being at war with Russia? Can you rule that out?
The whole point of a guarantee for any deal, or if there is a deal, is to preserve the peace. And if you want to preserve the peace, you have to be prepared to defend the peace. So the reason I've been forward-leaning on this is because I want to avoid conflict, because I do not want conflict in Ukraine, in Europe, and certainly not in the United Kingdom. I want stability in the United Kingdom. The way to ensure that stability is to ensure that we are able to defend a deal in Ukraine, because the one thing our history tells us is that if there is conflict in Europe, it will wash up on our shores. And already in the last 3 years, what's happened in Ukraine has had a massive impact on many working people back here in the United Kingdom, because their bills have gone up, their energy bills have gone up. There's been an instability in our economy caused by that conflict. So we are not unaffected by it. And of course, our own security and defence depends on the defence and security of Europe. So every step I am taking is in order to preserve peace, to avoid conflict, because the safety and security of the British people is my number one duty and responsibility, and I take it very seriously. Thank you. Chris at the BBC.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. After what happened the other night between Presidents Trump and Zelensky, do you feel a greater personal responsibility alongside President Macron and others for delivering a workable peace? And on the coalition of the willing, as you've described it today, are you persuading more people to join it? Thank you.
On the question of responsibility, I do think the United Kingdom should step up and lead. We have done that historically as a nation, and we need to do it again. And that is why we're moving forward on this. On the coalition of the willing, yes, a number of countries have indicated today that they want to be part of the plan that we are developing. I'll leave them to make their own statements about exactly how they want to make that contribution. But we've been able to move that forward. I accept without criticism and with respect the position of other countries that may not feel that they want to contribute in that way. But I strongly feel that unless some move forward, we will stay in the position we're in and not be able to move forward. And therefore, it is a deliberate plan to ensure that we get some momentum and pace here. And it is intended to preserve the peace, and it's intended to ensure that we stay in lockstep with the United States, which is my strongly held belief the best way to preserve security and defence in Europe and security and defence in the United Kingdom.
Any sense of how many join the group?
Well, a number indicated today that they wanted to be part of the more forward-looking element. I will, rather than speak for them in terms of exactly how they'll make that known and what their contribution will be, I'll leave that to them. But I'm pleased that a number did indicate that they do think that this is a plan worth backing and that they want to play a part in it. And so we've made real progress today in the course of the last few hours. Thank you. Alex.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Alex Wickham from Bloomberg.
Bloomberg, I'm sorry.
On your coalition of the willing, do you think it can be bolstered by countries that aren't just in Europe? Essentially, we've got Canada represented here today. Do you think you could get countries beyond Europe to join the coalition of the willing, essentially make it almost a transatlantic partnership? And also, in terms of your plan to present back to Donald Trump, how soon do you need to get that done? Is that something that really needs to happen very quickly in days? Thank you.
On the countries beyond Europe, obviously we had Canada here, who've traditionally taken a forward-leaning role. They've been working very hard with us on issues like training, and they've been a reliable ally. And I'm encouraging of that because they are already deeply vested in Ukraine. As I say, they've worked on the training, amongst other things. Yes, on the question of the US, look, I spoke to President Trump last night. I'm not going to go through the details of that conversation, but I would not be taking this step down this road if I didn't think that it was something that would yield a positive outcome in terms of ensuring that we move together, Ukraine, Europe, the UK and the US, together towards a lasting peace. And so that's the way I've approached this in the last few days. Hugo, from the I News.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Hugo Jai from the iPaper. Obviously, the other party that would need to sign up to any future peace deal is Russia. President Trump has said he wants to talk to Russia. You're coming up with a peace deal without Russia's involvement. What makes you think that Russia can be persuaded to sign up to this deal that's been agreed by its enemies?
Well, in the end, a deal will have to involve Russia. Of course it will. But we can't approach this on the basis that Russia dictates the terms of any security guarantee before we've even got to a deal. Otherwise, we won't make any progress at all. It is, for a deal to be done, but if a deal is done, it has to be a deal that is then defended. Because what we've seen in the past is a cessation of the hostilities without any backup, and that was readily breached by Russia. And that is precisely the situation that I think we need to avoid this time around, which is why we're going down this road. Antonello, please, from La Repubblica.
Thank you, Mr. Antonio Varela from La Repubblica. The Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who you had a bilateral meeting earlier today, said that the West must not split on Ukraine. How can you try to convince Meloni and other European leaders that your plan and your coalition of the willing, is the right thing, and to persuade them to join? And do you fear that the West might split on this? Thank you.
Well, firstly, I had a very good bilateral meeting with Georgia this morning. We had the first bilateral brunch, I think, in the history of British-Italian relations. So that was a first. We get on personally very well. And she's very clear, I don't want to speak for her, but I think her position is well known, that Europe and the US have to stand together and that bond must always be strong. So there's a huge amount of common ground between the way I see this and the way Georgia sees this, particularly the view that it is important for the security and defence of Italy, of Europe and the United Kingdom, that we work, as we've always worked, closely aligned with the United States. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you.